Welcome, everybody. You are at a workshop meeting of the Township of West Milford governing body. It is February 3rd, 2016. Please note, in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, adequate advance notice of this workshop meeting was advertised in the Herald News in its issue of December 20th, 2015 and January 3rd, 2016. Copies were provided to the Suburban Trends, the Record, and Star Ledger, and posted continuously in the main corridor of Town Hall and on file with the Office of the Township Clerk. Please also note, in case of emergencies, we do have exits to the left, right, rear, and front of this room. With that, I would ask that you all rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I would like to welcome Nicole, who is now going to be taking the minutes of our meetings, and to guide her tonight is Diane, who did the last few meetings for us. So, roll call, please, Nicole.
Councilwoman Eric?
Here.
Councilman Hensley?
Here.
Councilman Wagner?
Here.
Councilwoman Dale?
Here.
Councilman Signorino?
Here.
Councilwoman Lichtenberg?
Here.
Mayor Pieri?
Here. Okay, thank you, Nicole. For the public's edification, our next three meetings will be February 17th, a regular meeting, March 2nd, a workshop meeting, and March 16th, a regular meeting. And I always hate to do this to you, but the first item on our agenda is an executive session. So I have Resolution 2016-072, motion for executive session. Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of West Milford on this third day of February that prior to the conclusion of this workshop meeting, the governing body shall meet an executive session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss matters as permitted to NJSA 10:4-12, subsection B4, collective bargaining agreements, including negotiations. That would be special police officers and also Teamsters, AFSCME 2275, AFSCME 3301, I need my glasses. And also section B7, pending or anticipated litigation. That would be litigation COA and Triple T. The time when the matters discussed pursuant to paragraph 1 hereof can be disclosed to the public is as soon as practicable after the final resolution of the aforesaid matters. Do I have a motion,
So moved.
please?
Second.
That would be motioned by Ada and seconded by Marilyn. And roll call vote, please. I could have done all in favor, right?
Madam Mayor.
You know what? I'm gonna change that and just say all in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you. And yes.
Just wanted to make a statement in case I have to leave early. My wife's expecting within the next 2 wees, so anything can happen. So my apologies if I have to leave abruptly.
Congratulations. We will certainly understand.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a girl.
So we did all in favor? Okay, so again, to the members of the public, I apologize. We will move as quickly as possible. I do not have a time estimate. And Chuck, if you want to come in, we'll make you first, so. Okay. Let the record reflect it is 7:39. We are reconvening into the public portion of the meeting. The first discussion item, which is next on the agenda, is open space trust fund account. And I believe, Tim, you're possibly here for that as well, right? Tim Rotman from Community Services and Recreation Director. Tim? How do you want to work this?
Tim and I worked together to prepare this discussion item, so I give a lot of credit to him on the information that was provided to council. We were just seeking some direction from the governing body regarding the open space trust account. As you can see, the pre-referendum balance is $1,193,367, and that is limited for acquisition purposes. Post-referendum, the balances are $1,286,261 for acquisition, $95,525 for recreation, and 87,989 for historic preservation.
Can I just say, so that's the total though, right? It was the 1193 and then we added another year, so now we're on, because it makes it look like we have 1193 and 12, but the 12 is the total at this point in time, right?
No, the 1469775 is the total with the 12895 and 87.
No, I'm sorry, yes, 1469 is the total, but when it comes to acquisitions, the total at this point in time is 1.286.
No, that's only the total post-referendum.
Post-ref,
There's
1.1.
pre-referendum of 1.1.
So we do have the 2.4 million
Correct.
total. Okay, but that's the one clarification I needed, I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so continue, please, I'm sorry.
So then we were looking for direction from the governing body with regard, because as you all know, post-referendum, the fund can be divided into thirds, or with the 5 votes of the council, funds can be appropriated for other purposes. So we were just looking to seek direction from the governing body. We provided you with information that might help guide the discussion, and I'll turn it over to you guys now in case you have anything you want to share with us.
Tim, do you have, I mean, you had a beautiful memo, so thank you for that, but
Yeah, I guess, the reason why Antoinette and I were looking for direction was to, start a conversation about finishing some of the open capital projects that we have in town, and, just making sure that we complete things in a timely fashion to, ensure that we complete things in terms of being in compliance with all the grants that we've received from Passaic County and other entities.
Mr. Roteman, I just want to, thank you for the work that you put together here, because serving as a RAC liaison for 3 years, this was a lot that we had talked about for a long time, and this is the first time I've seen it all put together in one place, and it's exciting to see that. And I would really like to urge the council to go ahead and, take the bold step and go with a supermajority vote to further this process and really make an impact for this township in providing the park and the open space for recreation that the township needs. And correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the project for the Q3 that you have outlined here, was there an aspect of which we'd actually see a cost savings by getting all the projects and phases to go faster?
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest cost savings that, we can look at is the third phase of the project was to put lights on the Senza Pond Field. If we do all the construction in one shot, the construction crew is already there. They can dig the trenches, put the concrete blocks in to mount the poles on the blocks, all in one shot instead of having to call a, contractor back out.
Okay.
So something like that, definitely a cost savings.
Very good.
And the timing is also critical here, because the specifications have not been drawn as yet, but they are, we're on the verge of getting to the specifications for the
Right.
multiple phases. So if we were to include the additional items that based on the director's recommendation, we would incorporate them into the bid specifications.
Right.
I just think it would be super exciting to actually be able to see a difference and see rather than, what we've been doing by taking advantage of grant monies and everything else is, you get the grant for one little piece and then another little piece, but to be able to think that, and I know you put the whole list here, the Nosenza Pond, Farrell Fields and everything else, but we just take a project and do it and make it the park that we want it to be, and then you move on to the next one.
Right.
That alone, plus the cost savings and the fact that we could put the specs together, for me, it makes sense, so.
Antoinette makes a great point. You can pay the engineer once instead of twice.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, then, like you said, contractors, every time they have to leave and
Yeah.
come back, that's all costs,
Yep.
So, but I just think it would be like, we could actually show the public that, here's where your money went,
And I think it's the
Absolutely.
first time that I can remember that we've had the ability or a mechanism by which we could actually complete one project.
Exactly. But it encompasses several upgrades to fields, just getting it all done at once. And, I think it's been a long time coming, and I know that the RAC committee did work diligently on going back to, putting all of this together, and under your direction, it's obviously coming to fruition. So thank you for that. And I will say I'm in favor of it.
I am too.
Now, as we speak about being in favor of it, I will say that Tim outlined, he had 3 different projects. So right now, are we talking about Nozenzo? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm in favor of the whole phase
plan.
of the entire plan.
Oh, okay.
I do too. I want to see all of them happen according to the timelines that you can accommodate.
Exactly.
Then, just
Mayor,
in
I think the
speaking to that-
timelines were outlined, right?
Yeah, they
in
were,
here.
but I'm
Okay.
just saying, I don't want to say like, yeah, just do it. It's like based on the timelines that you presented, if
Right.
that's feasible still, I'm in favor of just doing them all.
Absolutely.
Right.
So then in speaking to that, I would direct you then also to the fact that some of the funding for the historic preservation, like the 87 here, that's before we put the requisition in for the windmill. So
Right.
you can assume that that's down $11,000 now. But then, the Friends of Wallish did submit information about what they would like to see, and the museum submitted a list of possible funding that they might need in ensuing years. So if we were to show deference to what their needs would be, we would probably want to leave funding in the historic preservation line. Maybe not to the full extent, but sufficient at least to cover what the museum, they've laid out a really nice plan.
Well, can I suggest that if we get consensus that we would have that supermajority to override the current percentages that are in the are in the ordinance, I guess between Tim and yourself, you could come up with new numbers like, well, we need to reserve, X number for historic, maybe there's some for something else. I believe in one of the quotes also, you were assuming in-house labor, and maybe we can't do that, so come up with the final figures, and then they can actually have the vote.
So,
But we don't want to go through all of that if we don't have the supermajority to do it.
Right.
So-
No, and I would agree, Madam Mayor, and I would say that I would give my consensus to support the plan so long as we respect the intent of the original ordinance to have the 3-way on that open space money, so.
Well, what do you
So-
mean by that?
Yeah,
Because
what
this
does that
would be not taking 33% only, it would be
Right,
taking
right.
more.
Well, the intent would be though to have 3 different purposes for the money, like it would get split 3 ways. So we wouldn't just be taking all the money and disregarding the historic part of it or the environmental. So I want to respect that part as far as
Right.
historic.
so
So you wouldn't be in favor of it?
I would, as long as we reserve the funding that we're talking about.
when funding
Which
comes
is
in, it will still be
required.
appropriated in that
Okay.
way. Yes.
In the future, but not now,
Right.
right?
Yeah, this would just be a vote.
Right, would have to be available.
I
Right?
think what we're saying is as tax monies are collected, it's still going to be distributed as per the ordinance in those percentages. But the council, if presented with figures to get, let's say, these projects done, could agree with a 5-6 vote to reallocate some of the existing funds to accomplish this. But when the money's first
As it
come in,
comes in,
they're
right.
still.
So, I guess I'm thinking specifically about certain items that we might need more in the short term, and we actually had a conversation about this, so we wouldn't have to leave money there, we would be depleting what's existing. According to the timeline, will there be funds available for, let's say, the Wallish property or the museum, should we need it, let's say, next year?
Well, I think,
I don't think we're
we will still be collecting throughout the year, so
Right.
the funds would be replenished to that extent. But I think, if I, to paraphrase.
Just don't want to
what
count
the-
on funding that's not there at the time.
But I think to paraphrase on what the mayor is saying, I think what we're being asked for is to put together the final numbers so that we would bring forward.
And
a
that would address
resolution
it. We
can
before the
see
governing
what-
body,
Right.
and you
Right.
would know what the recommendation for the depletion of the funds would
Right,
be.
you would see what's left in those accounts, what projects might be coming up for those various allocations, and how much you would need to vote upon in order to reallocate.
Right, so in other words, I was agreeing with you as long as we are doing that, is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say, so.
So we'll draft a resolution for council
As long as,
consideration.
do we have consensus?
Yeah.
Does everybody want to do that?
Can we take a poll just to agree with giving the direction like that? Yeah.
Yeah, you want an actual, well, it's a consensus, so do we don't really do a roll call?
Yeah. Well, I think we already have 4, so I mean,
We need
need
supermajority though.
supermajority.
So why?
Does anybody
why-
disagree? How about this? Does anybody disagree with this
The plan.
plan?
No, let's move.
Okay.
Okay, there you
So
go.
we have consensus.
Now we have
Let's
everybody.
put the figures together, right, and draft the resolution.
Smile on Tim's face.
Just move on it.
Just for
Well, I think it's something we've always wanted. We couldn't,
Yeah.
And there was never a plan laid out this way either.
Well, that's true,
That
too.
you could look at and understand each expense by each project with a timeline, what
What
the
needed to
value
be done,
realized
where
would
we're
be,
at,
and things like that. So
finish them all.
when you can look at a plan and see that it makes sense or doesn't make sense, that makes all the difference
I
in the
think she's
world.
saying it pays to be thorough, and thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
paraphrasing for
Thank
me.
you.
Getting wordy over here, am
All
I?
right, perfect. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Antoinette. I know it was a joint effort. Greenville Lake Bi-State Commission, the liaison.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the commission made a request to have a member of the governing body serve as liaison. And I defer to the council's decision on this. My recommendation would be not to do so at this time, but again, it is a council decision and we will work within the confines of your direction.
I agree with everything you said here.
Yeah, I think the proposal per your letter would basically just be have them come directly to administration so that you can do the research and present it to the full governing body. And that just seems to run much smoother than having an individual or any set of individuals. Plus, it's not allowed in the bylaws from what I saw.
Yeah, I think that's the more important point is the bylaws, the way they're set out.
But
Our
even when
liaisons are the two citizen members
Right.
that are appointed.
Right.
And, I mean, I go to many of their meetings, so, you know, I always, whenever it's applicable, I bring the concerns to the council, but I always encourage the communication between them and the administration. So the
Right.
communication, it's there. I mean, there's lines there
Right.
for them to take advantage of.
But I think
so.
even there, with all due respect, and I appreciate that you go to the meetings, but if there's issues, you should probably go to the administration so that
Always.
the research can be
Yeah,
done, rather
absolutely.
than coming to the council with it, because otherwise it's piecemeal or incomplete information.
Well, I guess I should say, I'll correct myself then. I report to the council anything that I think is applicable to report, but any issues that arise, it's always relayed to the administrator.
Excellent, yeah.
As
So,
you've known.
so we're all in agreement, no liaison, we'll just have them go through administration. And he actually seemed okay from that email correspondence, he was just like, or is that you? Do I
Yeah,
go
I
to you?
saw the email.
You know, so it's like, okay. So we'll advise them to go through administration, no liaison. Car wash system,
Thank you.
Mayor, as lengthy as my memo is, all we're really seeking for is consensus from the governing body to allow Ed Steins to keep working on this
Right.
and to reach out to his counterpart in the Board of Education to see if we can get some traction on this. It would be a great benefit to the municipality.
Yes, the only thing I would say is I'd like a timeline set to it because the longer we go without this sort of system, I think Lou has spoken about it for a long time. I know we've spoken to the Board of Ed about it directly as the liaisons. We really need to get something moving here.
Yeah. I was a little surprised when the Board of Ed members said they didn't even know about the issue.
Yeah.
To me, that's a red flag because we've been talking about it now, since I've been on that committee, like 4 years,
right.
so.
So everybody's okay with it?
Yeah.
We'll set a timeline, but move forward, right?
Yeah.
It's certainly an important issue, so I think it's our duty to make sure we research it more.
We will put Mr. Steins on it tomorrow.
Okay. And signs for events.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this came up last year at a public meeting, a number of public meetings, so we're just bringing it forth to the governing body. I did meet with the construction official and the zoning officer to get their input, and their input is what I have outlined here for you.
I mean, I don't think we need to change it, but unless there's any specific points that we want to change, I would like to make it obviously easier and better, but I don't know how we can do that without creating more of a mess, and
Right.
I think cumbersome.
you know,
Anyone else? So Lou, you're okay with basically status quo, leave it as is?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I know that there was an issue with signs being taken down for an event. I don't know if that was just a private property issue, public property. What was it specifically, Antoinette? Do you remember?
I think some signs were removed last year. There were some that were placed where there were complaints about interference with sight distances. And then there were some complaints about some of the signs being on private property. And I think the people who were placing them thought they were placing them on public property. So the zoning officer had to go out and remove some signs, which created some consternation.
But if they were on public property, they would have been okay?
No, but generally speaking, we wouldn't have an awareness of that. It's just that there was a complaint, and so
Complaint.
that's what compelled the removal of the signs.
I think that's where, so that's where the conflict is. So you have these town events, town-wide events, 82 square miles, and you want to let everybody know that it's going on. They should be able to put some signs up, so.
There's general.
My concern is that I don't want these signs being picked up. If we want these signs to be there, then how do we put that down on paper?
You'd need guidelines as to where they can go.
Yeah, and that's the point of this whole conversation, really. Basically, my opinion of this is, we talk about ecotourism, we talk about bringing people to town, we talk about getting excited about what goes on in town, because there's plenty to get excited about. But largely, lots of times, people just don't know whether they have missed it in the paper or don't know there's an activity that's going on that they might be interested in. Thus, the idea of having these event signs, basically, when, where, who, what, why, like these basic reasons, like that's what an event sign is: location, time, date, come out and see us, like the message, whatever it may be. My idea for what these signs should look like, they shouldn't be that big. They should be the smaller size, campaign signs, and I think we can come up with an agreement with the size and the shape and the scope. For example, I don't want 200 event signs necessarily, but I think there should be, a logical, rational approach that can be reached here, so that the Elks can advertise and the Tricky Trace can advertise, because they're already doing it. So you basically are decriminalizing the advertising that's already happening, and you bring a little bit of money in with perhaps a permit fee, and also maybe perhaps a deposit, because it's not fair to our employees that might be tasked with taking all these down, right? So that's what the deposit would be there. If you don't get your signs down, you lose your deposit. So
again, I like the concept of what you're talking about. I would disagree about a fee. To charge somebody a fee to put signs up if they're going to do it anyway. They're just
here's the difference.
What I'm saying is,
there's a difference.
You already have a permit to have the event. Okay, so you're already applying to have the event in town. Why have to go for a permit to put a sign up if you're already applying for the event? That should be included in the permit for the event. I mean, it should be all inclusive. Why should they have to pay an extra $50?
Because they may not want to advertise. They might not want signage on the. They might not want to have signs for their
Well,
event.
it's not like you don't have to make it mandatory. If they're applying for an event, you don't have to say, well, you have to have signs. It's just if you choose to have signs, you're exempt, right? Mm-hmm. Or if there are other guidelines that you would like to put in there, but they're already applying for the event. So you want the town to know that the event's going on.
Not necessarily, though. For example, at least it would seem reasonable that if a church is having an event, they won't have to have a permit to have an event at their church, right?
That's
So
a good question.
It's obviously no, like that's
because it's their property.
So once again, there is the occasion where people that might want to advertise an event, wouldn't really have that good point that you brought up, that they could do it in the permitting process beforehand. I'm just saying, I think there's a need because it's being done already. If it can bring money into the town, on a nominal fee. I'm not a big fan of fees or anything, but a nominal fee just out of point of respect. And here's what that does. What the fee does is it's, dare I say, it's like protection money. You pay the fee, you get a permit and license to have the signs up only for about 2 weeks. I would think is a fair time span to have it. And what that does is that guarantees that event that their signs aren't going to be taken down, or that's maybe a criminal nature. Like their signs are guaranteed to be up and not be disturbed. So that's the reason. Right now, you're right, Lou, they can have them up, but then other people are being tasked with taking them down. The employees of the town have been basically sought after to take these signs down for events at the expense of the event, promoter. I mean, we can work on it.
There are two different conversations here. I think there's the one where it's the permit is required for commercial sales and seasonal farm and market sales. So to your point, yes, if somebody has a commercial interest, then they're required to have the permit. But for the nonprofits, there is no licensing or permitting process in place. So there are two separate issues there.
Right.
Well, then in that case, I think both avenues should be, permitted in some way, shape, or form.
I think there should be a deposit for signs if you want to put up the signs. And therefore, if you take the signs down, they could come in, proceed to get their deposits returned to them. But if the signs don't come down, it's helping pay for the building department taking them down or whatever.
I hear you. So how much do you set the deposit at for? I mean, you have 82 square miles. I don't know that $50 isn't going to cover having our zoning officer going around 82 square miles. It's just not going to work.
So you can base it on
Make
number
it
of
based on
signs
how many
displayed.
signs you're taking out.
One, up to 25, it
Right.
could be X, up to 200, it could be X.
Right.
I don't know.
And that
think
way,
it's-
when
Are we
people
gonna
put up
start
signs
Jesse's
and they
lemonade
shouldn't be
stands up?
there,
If, like you
I
have
was
the
gonna
girl
say
next door is having, some kind of a lemonade stand and she wants to put signs up in the neighborhood, we're not going to go harass her, are we?
No.
I think the problem is that
And then are
it's
we-
making it more cumbersome and
Right.
costly for the nonprofits that are trying to raise money for some sort of valid charitable cause. I have a problem with that.
Right.
We have Relay for Life, we have, all sorts of St. Baldrick's, there's all sorts of things that are raising good money, and we really want to start charging a fee just for them to advertise that those events are happening.
And a lot of their signs are in the woods because there's not a mechanism in which to take them down.
I don't see those signs in the woods because they normally reuse them.
Well, see,
I
this is
see
the
political
thing.
signs in the woods, I don't see nonprofit signs in the
You know,
woods.
I just don't want to make it harder for people or take away the incentive to have more events. I think that's my biggest concern. I don't want to.
Honestly, I feel like we're reacting to one situation that arose, and we haven't had this problem in the past. And to take, one situation that one resident brought up about a paid event in town with someone trying to display direction signs and what have you, is not reason to go and change what we have in place today.
And I would, wholeheartedly disagree that, this has been brought up for that situation. The Economic Development Commission has brought this up in order to safeguard events and to promote events, not discourage events. Remember, this is about guaranteeing and decriminalizing advertising of events. That's what this is about. So, to your point about not making it a discouraging thing, then they shouldn't be large fees. But this is about promotion. This is about inclusion. This is about excitement. This is about advertising for good things happening.
And so the fee issue aside, if the governing body chose to legislate on this subject beyond what is currently on the books, then we would need direction as to what that legislation would be, because for the zoning officer to enforce the legislation, there would have to be very clear parameters. So we tried to outline what the conditions could be, because otherwise, there would be too much discretion for enforcement.
And
Well, my thing is, I'm certainly not going to be charging Relay for Life, for having 100 signs in town, or 50 or 20 or whatever they choose to have. If we want to have something filled out to acknowledge that they're putting signs up, what's that going to cost? How many events are you going to have? I mean, we're trying to get more events, we don't have that many events. And because there's two issues here. There's that, right? Allowing the signs, and then there's the people leaving the signs. How often do I say, I hear if somebody says, well, there's these signs still left on this street, so either I take care of it myself, or I call the administrator to let the zoning officer call them, or you call the group themselves who put the signs up. Everybody seems to be happy to take them down. There's not usually an issue as long as there's communication. So if there's a concern about registering it just so that there's no taking of the signs, then I'm all for that. I don't think we need a fee for that.
the signs you see right now, Lou, that you're referring to, those are illegal signs.
But I think
So, I mean-
I'm agreeing with you with
all
the-
of your points.
Right.
What if we created an ordinance that legitimatized or decriminalized the word you're using, so that you're allowed to have event signs, but I think what Antoinette is saying, what are the parameters? Is it for no more than 2 weeks prior to the event and, gone within 5 days after the event? Are we limiting the size? Are we limiting the quantity? Are we limiting where they get to be placed? And then I'm agreeing with Lou, okay, so maybe you then apply for that permit, but it would be free of charge to nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
So that way you put on notice, hey, Relay for Life, we're having this event, we're going to be putting up X number of signs on whatever locations are permitted, which we would still have to determine. No more than 2 weeks prior to, we'll take them all down within 3-5 days, whatever that number is that you guys decide. but it notifies the township that way, but there's no fee involved if it's a nonprofit.
Right.
But if there is a fee involved, we're saying there would be a fee for for-profit entities. Is that a fee that's refundable once all the signs have been removed? Or is that a fee?
I want to be friendly to businesses. I don't want to shake them down for $50
But
or $100.
so yeah, that's why it's refundable.
Refundable
There's a
when you
Provided the
deposit,
signs are
just
taken
to make
down.
sure, yeah.
But then who checks? I know it sounds bizarre, but who checks?
I think you'll get enough feedback if it was a blatant, you know.
82 square miles.
Yeah, it's,
No, but like there's still like the consensus that things are either down or they're not down. Like the banners are not down. Like we know that, you know. So I mean, the Christmas lights aren't down. Like that's basic surmising.
but when you're an enforcement agent,
Right.
there is no room for that level of discretion.
Exactly.
You do not have discretion as an enforcement agent. So I could say, generally speaking, I believe all the signs are down, but I happen to travel to Upper Greenwood Lake, or I happen to travel to
Oak Ridge.
Newfoundland or whatever. And so, in my opinion, generally
days.
speaking, so we release the escrow and then we get a complaint, and as an enforcement agent, you've not
Gonna be
fulfilled the
accused of
function
So a
of what's
sign
been
penalty?
legislated by your.
A down sign penalty, you know.
Well, we have gremlins in this town who go around and moving signs.
too.
So one of the things is, if that sign was up for the entire 2 weeks prior to the event in that location, and now it's gone, but it reappeared
Pops up.
down the road, it's not the event who's
But
responsible
that's
for
where,
that.
but that's where Antoinette said, the enforcement agent can't.
Differentiate, yeah. They're just like, well, your sign's
It
there.
might logically make sense what you just said, but if the sign is up, the sign is up, and that's part of the problem.
Because on most repeat signs, you take Relay for Life, and Tim, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use the air show. These people put them out and take them in, because they want to reuse them.
Animal shelter, that's why I said,
Yeah.
use the same sign, we change the date.
You know, it's the peak, you know, so
They're happy to know that their signs are still out there. They'll gladly go and get them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding, so I don't really,
But so we get back to, are there time limits? Is there a fee for, it sounds like everybody agreed for nonprofits, no fee, but then there's the for-profits. Do you have a fee? Is it refundable or not? If so, how do you determine whether or not it should be refunded?
I'd rather just not have the fee.
Right.
Just, it seems cleaner.
I have to agree
Well,
with
if it's
that.
for-profit, wouldn't they have to apply for the permit for the event? So going back to what Lou said,
Right,
if
so
it's
that
a
particular,
for-profit,
right.
then they already have an application for the event.
They should be
So
exempt.
they're already paying a fee.
And actually, and I would draw everybody's attention to 500-152, which actually, we could amend it just to protect and decriminalize these townwide events. It says permits shall not be required for the following signs: building marker, identification, incidental, window, flag, political, and community organizations. Maybe we can include, and also, I'm not sure what the proper verbiage would be, and Fred just came back, so he doesn't know what I'm talking about. But it would be something like
Township event.
town-approved event, you know, so that they would just be exempt. So they would be allowed, in fact, to put it on public property.
We'd have to come up with the right language. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be town
Yeah.
approved, it would
No.
be events that are.
For which an application has been,
application
yeah.
can-
And add
in
nonprofit
accordance
because.
with-
Yeah, whatever the language would
500.
be.
Whatever it would be, but that would be the intent.
Organizations.
That's good.
I mean, it says community organizations, but I think nonprofit specifically needs
And
to be listed.
Antoinette, in terms of when it talks about public property, from what I'm comfortable with personally, is the idea of the political signs and where they go. They're not allowed on Town Hall. They're not allowed on Bubbling Springs.
Not a lot of government property.
Not allowed on government
But they're
property.
separate. We shouldn't mix the
We've
two.
changed now, we're going now to say, proposed amendment
Okay.
to section 500-152C.
C.
So we would add, in addition to the entities that are reflected there, permits not required, we would add those events where a permit has been obtained in accordance with 536.1 and events held by nonprofit organizations. So we would exempt them in this 500-152. Is that
That
correct?
solves that, huh, Lou?
Thank you.
So that's the nonprofit events. What about the for-profit events?
Yes.
Yeah, the
They
ones
would
that
be-
comply with the other
events, yeah.
application.
And that's all squared away too?
Yes.
They would be in there because they would have applied for a permit.
Events.
For the event itself,
Right.
so.
And we would still, but that's the separate issue. Then we still need to have the application for the other.
Right, that's got to be tweaked then, right?
Right.
Okay.
When they come in for their permit, do they get a copy of the ordinance?
Yeah, I think the guidance is just to submit an amendment for consideration to
Yeah.
chapter 500-152C to add language whereby, in addition to the entities already reflected there, we would be legislating that permits would not be required for organizers of events who have applied for permits in accordance with 500-36.1 and nonprofit organizations. And that should then achieve the will of the council.
Yeah, that
Thank
should
you.
encompass everything, right?
Sounds good.
I mean,
Thank you.
that's the goal here.
And I will have that before you for introduction on this sentence.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we are on to public comments. This is your opportunity to address the governing body. I would ask that you state your name and address for the record at the podium. Limit yourself to 5 minutes, and if you are approaching the 5-minute mark, I will try to motion to you so that you can wrap up your comments. And everybody will have an opportunity. Mr. Nicholson, I saw your hand first.
Hi, Bob Nicholson, 20 Hyde Road, Stockholm, New Jersey. Commenting on the sign for events, I think there was a lot of positive things said, and it makes a lot of sense. But I have some concerns about when you say events, you need to define events, because when I think of events, I would think of ALF, the air show, the boat race. That's what I would consider an event. And then Councilman Signorino said 50 to 100 signs. Now, if you're going to add like nonprofits, that's going to be a lot of signs. I would probably suggest maybe a banner that could be put across at integral places. For instance, Councilman Hensley said local advertising. Well, everybody knows where ALF is. Everybody knows where the airport is. So that's not really the issue. I think if you're looking for tourism, you're looking for people coming from out of town, and you would want to direct them to where the place is, because somebody coming from Clifton has no idea what the airport is, for say, or where ALF is. And that makes a lot of sense to put signs. And if you put, let's say, banners up, on Union Valley Road, Macapin, Echo Lake Road, those are the main ways that would direct them, and then a few other signs. Because if you include events, for instance, on Channel 77, we have no less than 15 events we're advertising every week. So that you'd be open up, for instance, communities, a fire department, having a fish fry. You're having the chili cook-off. You're having the Elks. So you're having, the animal shelter. You're having a lot of events going on every week. So do you really want to include them in signs, to put out everywhere? Because in that case, you're going to have a bigger problem than before the ordinance was made. And because I believe the original ordinance was because of the advertising, but I also believe in ecotourism, and that we should accommodate that to get people to directions. But so my question is, do you need to add local events as opposed to, let's say, large community events? Relay for Life brings outside people, to do that. And banners, to me, would just be a more economical way and more ecological way. You wouldn't be littering up the whole place with stuff, and it would be cheaper for the organization to do that, to put a banner in. This is mine. And like I said, no fees. I don't think you should charge a fee for people who's trying to do something, because if they're going to be charged with, let's say, making a banner and the cost of that's due diligence, and I think they'll be more careful about that. Just like you said, you don't want to take away events. You don't want to discourage people from coming to town. You want to encourage people to come to town. You don't want them to get lost either. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Doris?
Two things. Doris Arrington, 19 Barefoot. One is Councilwoman Ada Eric has many talents, and she won second place in the chili cook-off at the Presbyterian Church this past weekend.
You saved some for us, Ada?
No, mine had the most there, and it was a sellout.
Yeah, her pot was twice as big as everybody else's, and everybody ate hers. Second is we've had some serious deaths in this township for drug overdose. And from time to time, when we've had other drug problems, I say things to council people or to other people in town. They say, well, the drugs are all over the place. What are we going to do about them? This is our town. Maybe there are things we can do about reducing the amount of drug problems in this town. I don't want to see more deaths. It continues. And I'd like to see the council brainstorm, perhaps with the input from Tim in terms of ideas of what to do and letting us know the extent to which there are problems. I think many of these problems should be addressed by multiple sources: the council, the health advisory board, the police. So I'd really like to see, in fact tonight, the council do some brainstorming. Perhaps there should be a special committee set up. How should we be handling things in order to reduce drug overdose, people landing in the hospital, people landing in the ground? Thank you.
Thank you, Doris.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Seeing no one move to close the public portion.
Second.
Okay, that was Ada, and take your pick. We'll give it to.
Maryland's.
All right. I was going to give it to you because I gave it to
No, I
Marilyn
heard it. I
last time.
stopped short. It's fine.
All right, so motion by Ada and seconded by Marilyn. All in favor of closing the public portion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any council comments? Tim?
First, I'd like to thank the DPW for an unbelievable job of snow removal. With all this warm weather, I think everybody forgot that just a little over a week ago, we had about 2 feet of snow. And plowing the airport, I see firsthand, how aggressive they are. And as soon as it stopped, the roads were pretty clear. I did receive one complaint, and I did pass that on to our town administrator, and it was dealt with quickly. And I know the resident was pleased to find that they were very receptive to their needs. I had several conversations.
Excuse me, Mayor, but isn't this council comments
I'm
too?
getting to it, thank you. This is council comments, which is strictly in reply to the public comments. Your report will be later.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
He's a
I'm new
newbie,
here.
give him a chance. So yeah, this is strictly, right now, it's strictly to respond to any of the public comments, and then a little bit later, you'll get that opportunity.
Save that
So,
time.
Mayor, I'll just briefly reply to Ms.
right,
Doris.
this is Michelle.
Sorry, thank you. To Doris's comments, Doris, we are getting our act together with CASA. We're doing many, many good things. We're going to start having monthly meetings. We have new liaisons for the police department. There's Michael Litterer has come. They're creating a plan. Lou and I have spoken to the Board of Education. We have a new liaison there. We are pulling it together, and not that we weren't doing anything before, because we most definitely were. I think it's just a matter of the fact that their resources were kind of spread out, and we're trying to just centralize them from a community aspect, and to understand what all the resources are and how each entity is playing a part in doing exactly what you're asking us to do, which is to create a focus of drug awareness and community prevention and things like that. So give us time and work with us, and I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised at the things that we're going to do this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to comment that we're attacking that on many fronts and revamping it, and the entire council is working together on that. So with our community against substance abuse and the police department and everybody else. So.
One of the aspects that they say down at UP You know, ever since 9/11, the term, if you see something, say something, has been out there. And one of the things where most communities aren't putting out there is family, friends. If you see something, talk to the person, bring them for help, drag them for help, do whatever. Don't just leave them alone. That's what continues that downward spiral. Even the friend can talk to the police and find out what's available, what can happen, what's going on. You can't just say, it's not me, so I'm not going to deal with it. Because it's something that belongs to all of us right now.
And I do want to acknowledge, Mayor, I won't say any names because, sometimes you don't know how people feel about that. But the two deaths that just happened really hit a really hard blow to the community. So my heart definitely goes out to the families. Their losses will be felt. So.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Then we can move on to action items, and I'd like to jump first to Resolution 2016-074, the Lakeland tax appeals. And Fred?
Yeah, this has to do with, there's 4 properties owned by Lakeland Bank that were under appeal, and we've been negotiating with them, and I guess I really got final word about 5:45 this evening, and that all of the appeals are going to be withdrawn. So there won't be any necessary action to take on settlement. There will be, at the assessor's discretion, an adjustment for 2016. So he would, and I'll memorialize this with an appeal that he'll file to adjust the assessments, which would come to from the municipals portion about $12,000, and a change in tax revenue to the township. But when we look at the 4 cases, the branch bank on Union Valley Road, that's been withdrawn. That has an assessment of $627,000, and the exposure to the township in itself for the years in question would be about $32,000 based on the reports that have been submitted. The location of 1527 Union Valley Road, that's a branch bank. That too has an assessment of $899 for all of the years in question. That's 4 years. Their appraisal was $730. We've resolved that with a withdrawal of that appeal. The third case is a branch bank over on Route 23. That assessment's $1,184,000. There's an appraisal submitted. It's public information at $750,000. That was withdrawn as well. That would have resulted in a $66,000 refund to the taxpayer if they were correct. We're not saying that it's correct. And then the fourth one is an office building, which is an assessment of $3.2 million. That too is being withdrawn. And again, the assessor for 2016, which he has the discretion to do, will make an adjustment as a result of all of these appeals. But that adjustment would result in a $12,000 adjustment to the township for 2016. But all of the other appeals, it won't require any resolution because they're all going to be withdrawn. So there's no settlement that we have to effectuate or refund any taxes. Okay. So the timing of all of this and the deadlines that were imposed by the governing body and the administration, I think, were effective. But again, I thought as of Thursday that we may need a resolution, but then all the way up to about 5:45 tonight, this was still in the process of getting resolved. I think it's favorable to the township, certainly. And it clears, with respect to reserves and things of that nature, a significant amount of appeals, 4 cases of all these properties.
Excellent.
Excellent, thank
Thanks,
you.
Fred.
So we will be withdrawing Resolution 2016-074, and I would ask the council if you're agreeable to vote on the remainder of the action items, which would be Resolutions 2016-073, 075, 076, and 077.
So moved.
Second.
That was Ada, Eric, and Marilyn again. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor. I wish I'd gotten this information before, but did we do any kind of
request for pricing for Trinity. I know we've had them for several years. I wouldn't want to just continue a contract just because. I mean, are we comparing them to others? You know?
Yes, sir, we
are?
did, yes.
Okay.
We did preliminary, the contract expired at the end of 2015, and it had not been renewed. Before we put this before the governing body, we just did a preliminary feel for what was out there, and Trinity is always responsive to our proposals.
Right.
And in fact, sometimes they're the only responsive party. And what they were quoting us was better than what anybody else was quoting in the informal process.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, then a roll call vote, please, Nicole.
Councilwoman Eric?
Yes.
Councilman Hensley?
Yes.
Councilman Wagner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dale?
Yes.
Councilman Signorino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lichtenberg?
Yes.
Mayor Vieri?
Oh, no, I don't get to
Sorry.
vote, that's okay. I appreciate that opportunity, but, perfect, thank you, Nicole. And we have approval of expenditures, Resolution 2016-078.
Pay them.
Second.
That was Ada and Lou, and any discussion? And then we will go on to another roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Eric?
Yes.
Councilman Hensley?
Yes.
Councilman Wagner?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dale?
Yes.
Councilman Signorino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lichtenberg?
Yes.
Okay, thank you again, Nicole. We are on to reports, and Tim, you are actually up first this week, so you may now continue with your report.
I won't repeat myself on the great job that DPW did. I did have several conversations with Tim Rotman in the rec department. The holiday banners that are out on the poles, they changed out with the spring banners any day now. So we also talked about actually saw the senior lounge that was finally completed. It has a new TV. It's been painted, new furniture. Approximately about $4,500 was spent. So it's been well received. I also got updated on the fireworks committee. As new liaison to the fireworks committee, look forward to the next meeting on February 15th, and did review a lot of the numbers that's been coming in. And actually, a good thing, we have a couple of new sponsors, Garrick RV and Columbia Bank. They bought the gold sponsor package of $1,500, and I think that brings our sponsorship total just over $10,700. And my understanding, we might have some other sponsorships coming in. From my understanding also is that the maximum this event's going to cost is between $27,000 to $30,000. With some vendor money, sponsorship money, we're very close to this event being paid for. And I'm being very optimistic, but I'm thinking hopefully in the next couple of months we reevaluate this thing, and maybe not this year, but by next year, that this could be a free event to the township residents. Now, being that we have a lot of sponsors on board and been very generous this year, sponsors like spectators. And years past, approximately 600 to 700 vehicles, bringing approximately 2.5 people. To get more sponsors, have more people, make it a free event. And I think that if we really think about it, that might be the way to go.
Tim, can I ask, did you look into, because this is a question I was going to ask.
Let me finish. Also, that if you're not collecting money, generally your police fees are going to be a little bit lesser. I think Tim could probably vouch for that, because you don't need an officer wherever you're collecting money. So the question is whether, the township's going to come to the decision whether they're going to want to charge for this event, or maybe participate and maybe put 5,000 towards it, or whatever that number is. But I think the next couple of months will really decide that. And I know it's early on, but the way this is going, and I've already spoken to a few other sponsors, and until I get those commitments, I'm not going to announce it, but we're getting there. And the committee did a tremendous job, and I'm pretty impressed. So I think this is something that could be another event in town that, like the Autumn Lights Festival, draws big crowds. Why? It's free. It's a great event. I've got a lot of vendors, but, free events draw up big crowds. And I think this is a great location, and I've been very impressed so far. So, I mean, you want to add something?
Yeah, did you inquire as to whether that includes employee costs in your overall cost projections?
This is the number, $30,000 was the number that I got from Tim Roman as the maximum cost.
Does it include employee costs? That's what I'd like to know.
You said it was
So
total-
since we're
you said
co-liaisoning
that
it,
was the total cost.
okay, including employees,
That's what total cost.
Okay.
What I,
I think we ought to just, as the liaisons, we should just verify that number.
Yeah, like I said, the month's lead going forward, we'll see where it lies and, what we got to do to keep this event.
Sounds good.
So,
Yeah, and
also,
there's just one more thing. Did that include the Lakeland Bank contribution as well?
no,
Okay.
no, that's what I said, that was, we have a commitment, but until you get money in hand, and that's what,
Okay.
until you have money in hand, we don't want to count it.
Okay.
Also want to bring to everybody's attention is, we had some conversation on the Senzo Pond. Over the years, I've, brought the attention, the pavilion there, that if, I don't know if you have been to the pavilion, but it's, to me, it's a little bit of a dangerous situation. I got photos here. I did show this to Tim Roman, I'll pass these out, but, kids are hanging out there and they're having a free-for-all there, and it's a condition that I feel is unsafe. And I know Tim said he's going to have the rec department kind of clean it out, but I think we should get some signs there that it's off limits until this, something happens with that pavilion, because it's becoming something that's a hangout and nobody's really supervising it.
Does that help protect us if there's any signage?
It would deter it at least, and maybe some more police patrol.
I'm thinking, does it help protect us? I mean, kids are, if they want to choose for what a sign they choose for.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but
It's like when you
one
have
thing is just
swimming
cleaned
this
out.
kind of thing.
There's a lot of broken glass there, there's, 2x4s where nails sticking out, and there's a lot of other stuff that
Right.
And speaking to that, I'd just like to remind everybody, and I commend the governing body, because we did seek consensus from the governing body to start making our presence felt more at that facility, and the council did give consensus for the Community Service and Recreation Department to have a greater presence there. We were aware that there were issues with the pavilion, which we did bring to the governing body's attention, and the Community Services and Recreation Department has some plans to alleviate that problem in the near future.
And I would like to also just bring up the point that skateboarders often consider themselves a persecuted class of people. And the kids that I've seen skateboarding have done some pretty cool things there, and, they nothing personal, but they pretty much hate the skate park up the mountain because it wasn't designed by them. And this is a skate park that's designed by them. So you're talking about kids that are getting their saw out and cutting and measuring and, skating on a skateboard. And those are usually not the kids that are using, debilitating drugs that, you have to sit on the couch and hope you come out of it. So I just want to bring up that point real quick.
Yeah, the problem is it's not just obviously it's not the skateboarders that are probably causing all the trouble, but fortunately there's other types of kids that are hanging out there, and maybe some additional patrol, and it definitely needs to be cleaned up.
So I guess
It's an eyesore in town.
I think what Antoinette's saying is.
Do you mind if I add just, or do you want me to wait till my own comments? But I would just say, obviously we want to clean it up, and I know Antoinette and I had a conversation, so for, whatever, I'll say it. So for 2 years, I've been bringing up to different administrators that we have this fence that's sticking out like barbed wire. It's only a matter of time somebody's going to get hurt, and nobody's gotten hurt, and it's still not taken down. I'm not sure why it's not getting down to the proper people to take care of it, but hopefully that will get taken care of. So I agree with if there's broken glass, nails, or whatever's going on. If there's a dangerous situation, it definitely should be. We don't want to have people getting hurt, for us being negligent. But I certainly don't want to deter any kind of healthy activities that are going on there.
Yes, one other thing is on Marshall Hill School's got a baseball field that has a approximately 200 feet, 6 foot high chain link fence that is another unsafe condition that I think it's a Board of Ed responsibility, but it's, my kids were playing baseball there, I'd be really worried about going for a high fly, and, the fence is in pretty bad shape. Even the protective guard is just covered by growth, and it's falling apart.
Yeah,
and it's approximately about 200 feet. So we're talking about, adding new fields and rejuvenate fields, but, we got to maintain what we got.
yeah, no, and I'm,
It's the Board of Ed, though.
Yeah, exactly. So.
yeah, and just be,
The administrator should reach out to someone in the Board of Ed, or.
We already did.
yes, and maybe, actually, you know what, though, maybe you can follow up, Antoinette, with Barbara, and just to make sure that, I'm sure she got the message, but we did actually, in fact, so rest assured, we did talk about that, because we had gotten other complaints too, and they were receptive to it. They didn't know that there was issues there, so
We
they're,
get a timeline on when that's going to take place.
yeah, and they said they'll actually look at all their fields, so, which works out perfect.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Michelle?
I'm next. I just have a fish fry to talk about. It is on, company number 2 is having a fundraiser dinner on March 5th, catered by Tastefully British. If you're interested in going, you would need to reach out to Kim Smith at 862-881-6080 to purchase tickets in advance, $15. Seniors are discounted to $13 and $8 for children. So if you're interested in going, I've also passed the flyer on to the cable TV committee to hopefully have it advertised there as well. I attended the fire department meeting as the liaison, followed up with the administrator on some of the things and items that were discussed. The chief of police was also there. That was very much appreciated. I think not only by myself, but also the chiefs as well. It's kind of like coming together, and we're all working nicely together and addressing, issues and talking about things that we can do, from the fire department's aspect. And so she's got follow-up items to do on that, which she did put in her report. I'm not going to discuss what they are, but they are all being followed up on and addressed. And we have a CASA meeting on February 8th at Hillcrest. We could use all the volunteers. Doris, reach out to the community for us if you wouldn't mind, and if you can bring people to the meeting, we would love to have.
Do that.
Okay.
I don't have a computer.
Okay. Just people you talk to, maybe in ShopRite, or that I know that you make a lot of contacts, but
Maybe an article should be put in the newspaper.
okay, we could.
Indicating the recent deaths and the need for community participation.
In any case, if you do speak to anybody and they are interested in coming to the meeting, it will be February 8th at Hillcrest. And like I said, we welcome everybody to come to the Citizens Against Substance Abuse meeting.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Thanks, Marilyn. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So while you're at your CASA meeting,
Yes.
we will be having an insurance committee meeting, and I look forward to bringing back some recommendations to this council. As you may recall, we set up, have to have both of our insurance people come to us and discuss some of the issues at hand and how they can better our town. Also, the museum, Saturdays 1 to 4. Anybody who's interested in learning more about the town we live in, where we come from, certainly stop by. You'll always see some good volunteers ready to show you around and talk to you about the history. So we certainly would love to have you. And also, if you have anything that you would like to donate to the museum, something historic, something that that's been in town that you think that should be displayed, certainly contact Tanya Cubby in the planning department, or the administrator, or myself, and we certainly would like to to help you out. But more importantly, actually, what I really want to talk about is something that really kind of gets me a little upset, because I'm hearing it more and more. You have these frauds going on. You have these, I guess, phone calls people are receiving, whether they be like IRS agents or, scam artists. They say, well, we have your child or your grandchild, and we're going to hurt them if you don't send us this money right away. And believe it or not, that really does victimize people. And more often than not, you would think that they just go after gullible people. That's not the case. They do go after, smart people. Because when it comes down to it, the things that they use to victimize, people that are picking up the phone it's unbelievable. It could be my mother, it could be my grandmother, it could be your mother, grandmother. It's really sad. So I just want to draw to everybody's attention. At the end of last year, you had, here it is. Let's see. the Attorney General, John Hoffman, announced that in early 2016, which actually it's, if you go online, you'll find it, that there would have been an anti-fraud toolkit available for people that want to make themselves aware of this sort of scam that's going on. If you go on the Consumers Affairs website, you can look up fraud. I believe it's called, actually I have it right here, Fighting Fraud. And then you can find the consumer briefs, which kind of give you some ideas on how to look for scam artists, how to tell between a legitimate business person calling you and somebody who's just trying to pull a scam on you. I know last year we had, what's his name? Steve Lee, who's the acting, forget his title. Okay, here is the Steve Lee. I think he's not the acting attorney general. I forget what his title is. But anyway, I guess they had put in a program where they went to every county last year in New Jersey, across the state, and to give this fraud awareness, to bring it to everybody. But I would just say that if anybody who's interested in finding out, especially the seniors, because they seem to be a large target for these scammers, I would say please make yourself aware of the warning signs. And please go to the website. I'll be going around. I've already contacted one of the senior groups, and I'll be looking to contact some others, and maybe even Marilyn can help me out, and we can kind of bring some of this information to them to sort of help them out preemptively, so they don't fall for this sort of thing. I do have a short list of the types of fraud.
Excuse me.
God bless you. You have elder fraud, where these scammers do just go after the elderly, the seniors. And then, like I mentioned, the grandparent scam, where a caller will call up, like with an urgent phone call and claim to be, to have their child or their grandchild and scare them into paying some sort of money. And then you also have identity theft and phishing, and you also have the sweepstakes scams, where they say that they've earned money or whatever, and they get them into paying. Apparently, there was a story, some woman ended up paying $200,000. She was scammed. An elderly woman was scammed out of $200,000 by apparently a ring of these scammers that took some total of $25.2 million from different people. So this is like a serious thing. And I actually heard personally from somebody who actually works with me, I guess last year, their own mother was called, and it was threatened that something would happen to one of the person's siblings if they didn't wire this money, and apparently there was nothing that they could do at the time. So maybe even, Chief, if there's any pointers that you have that you can let me know so that I can relay that to the seniors, whatever can help, because they work so hard to save their money, and they need the money to to stay afloat. So certainly don't want them to be victimized. So, and that's it, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marilyn?
Yes, I actually had a meeting today with a group of seniors, and this was a big discussion. I went over with them, and I told them about different types of frauds, particularly that have been occurring in the last 2 weeks in the area in West Milford. And one is the IRS. Somebody calls and they tell you that you have a problem with your taxes. And then there's another one going around regarding computers. You get a call and say there's a definite virus on your computer, and then they try to get information that way. In fact, I told the seniors, the chief's not going to like this. I told the seniors, if you get a phone call, tell the people, please, this phone's not working right. Call my other number, 973-728-8000. They'll take care of it. So I told the seniors to do that, which is the police department. For the seniors, ARP Foundation's helping with their income taxes. If you'd like an appointment, it's free, and they will help you at Hillcrest. Call 973-728-2871. It's the ARP Foundation, and they have people there to set up appointments, and they'll help you with your income tax for filing. I wanted to, again, I will continually bring up the Pride Rummage Sale, which is coming April 22nd and 23rd, and I will bring this up at each meeting. If you have anything that you care to donate for the Pride program, you can drop it off at Hillcrest during the week from 1 to 5. And they are taking large items, small items, everything. One other thing that I think is very important, and I occasionally like to bring it up, I'll be bringing it up more with the lake communities also. But when you ride around and you look at houses, there's so many houses that do not have house numbers on them. And there is an ordinance in town that you are to have a house number on your home. It has to be a numerical number, not written out as a cursive number. It has to be a numerical number 4 inches in size. And it's supposed to be visible by your doorway if your home is visible from the street for the door, for the residents. If it isn't, you're supposed to have one by the street that they can see your house number. This is for your personal benefit, and it's also to help all the emergency services in town. And if you really, in your community, if you notice a neighbor doesn't have a house number on, maybe you should mention it to them that they should have a house number. There's actually an ordinance, and you can be fined for not having it. Again, it's supposed to be a 4-inch number in size. Please mention it if you're in a community where they have community meetings. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Ada?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I did have one other thing. Really sorry. I wanted to praise the administrator for these great reports that she's constantly giving the council all the time by email. Thank you.
Thank you. Ada?
All right, first I'll speak about the Cable TV Committee. Especially from the dais here, you don't send it to me, any CBB request, you send it to West Milford, WM77TV@westmilford.org. Even though I got Michelle's request about the fish fry, I passed it on right away, and Bob put up a CBB that very day on it. There is Lou for your scam. It was a year ago, as I was walking into town hall, some lady stopped me, and she was on the phone with these supposed kidnappers of her daughter. And I want to give a real big kudos to the police department, not only here, but at the other end, because it was resolved with the lady right in our parking lot here. And the poor woman was absolutely terrified. And at first I thought she was joking, so I ran in and, got the police to come out, and we all thought it was joking until you actually saw her face. She was terrified.
Yeah.
So, we got the greatest cops that there is, but apparently there's the blue ones on the other end that are just like ours.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing is you got to say something.
Yeah.
Just to give you something on the fireworks committee that you guys don't know about. Last month at the fireworks committee, asked if a CBB could be put up advertising the fireworks for July. It is up and running. If any of you are watching 77, it's an awesome thing, and it advertises ShopRite as our sponsor, ShopRite of West Milford. The senior ID by the sheriff the other week was pretty good success. And one of the things on cable, on the TV, what we're trying to promote, and we've been trying for 2 years, so I'm going to just come right out and say it here. We are trying to promote our town, the good stuff, not, our overdose deaths. They happen all over too. One of the things we have some really awesome people in this town. I'm looking at Don out there, and he's a local author. He's a crazy man who hikes all over the place. And there's kids in this. We did an interview with the girl who won the award on Americanism. But I'm asking anyone out there, if you know anyone in this town that can promote an educational achievement. Last year we had kids that got free rides to Princeton, and no one knew about it unless you sat at that Board of Ed meeting to hear that. Contact us. We'd like to put you guys on the air. Let everyone see how great this town is. And the last thing that I got an email from someone, And it's about our tire disposal of that recycling. And the gentleman was saying that we have a $2 fee for up to a 15-inch rim. Not the rim, the tire, but the rim. And he pointed something out. I mean, I have a truck, so of course I have big tires. But the bigger the tire, it's up to $5. But this man has a Volkswagen that has 16-inch wheels with very little rubber. They're low-profile tires. And it cost him $5 a tire rather than $2 a tire. So something has to be straightened out about that ordinance. I can understand charging me $5 for a truck tire, except if I get my tires changed at a tire place, I only have to pay $4 to let them take it. So we have to do something about that, because.
If I could ask just tomorrow if you can get me the specifics, I can look into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's it for me.
And Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. The Economic Redevelopment Zone Subcommittee met, and I thought it would be appropriate to ask the council publicly here if we could just rename it the Revitalization Committee, because I think that is more in line with the spirit and the direction of the committee. And I just want to report, Ada is one of the liaisons with me there, and we had a really great meeting with Chuck McGrody, and our administrator was good enough to find time to meet with us as well. And she added a great deal of depth and scope to the conversation as well, which I'm very thankful of. And we're it's very preliminary, and, I won't really get into it as of yet, but we have a lot of good things that we're cooking up in there, and I'm going to be excited to share those developments as the year progresses. I just want to give a shout out, like Tim mentioned, to our DPW. They did an absolutely outstanding job getting rid of the snow. And once again to Tim Rootman for putting together what I think is a phenomenal recreation, across the board recreation proposal moving forward that we can plan and hopefully everyone here can support. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
So do you want the consensus now for the change?
For what's that? Yeah, if I could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it.
That way I can call the Revitalization Committee.
We just found out that the other name was absolutely wrong.
Yeah, it's just like
in the eyes
wrong.
of the state.
Like when you talk to, like, say, an Antoinette or Chuck McGarty, they just cringe because we're not talking about the right thing.
We're talking about two entirely different things.
So revitalization is more correct. So.
I think you
Still
have
waiting for.
consensus.
I hear one no. I don't know if there's anyone else.
Okay, so it's renamed, that's, everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a subcommittee.
Yes.
Subcommittee, yeah. All right, I'm just gonna follow up on the scams that were talked about. I know for sure, because I get calls from my clients, that the IRS scam is definitely out there. And my recommendation to everybody, well, with that particular scam is no government agency, not the IRS, not the state of New Jersey, will call you and demand money on the spot. They will not threaten jail, nothing. The very first steps that you will always get will be mailed correspondence. They don't email, they don't call for that kind of stuff. You will get mailed correspondence, and you would get verification and everything else. So do not believe it if they do that. It's very scary to get those calls. And then in general, to everybody in the public, regardless of what kind of scam it might be, the bottom line is never give out your personal information to anybody over the phone or in an email. Don't give them your social security number. Don't give them your date of birth. Don't give them your credit card number, nothing. And certainly do not send any money. Don't give them debit cards that they're asking to send. Don't give them money orders. Don't give them a wire transfer. Don't give them your bank account number, nothing. That's just not the way the world works. If you want to purchase something, you can give it. But if somebody's asking for you for money, do not give it out, and do not give out your personal information.
Just give them the police department phone number.
Or report it to the police. I've done that. I've taken the caller ID number off and reported it. But, just do not, that's just not the way legitimate organizations operate. They just don't. So, Fred?
Pretty early, thanks. Mayor, I just want to add, I actually know someone who one of those emails went out that said, please send money, I hate to ask, but I'm in another country.
I'm stuck here,
And the person I know,
I found that too.
so one of the individuals who received the email went and actually wired money to that,
Yep.
So that's,
They do.
you're right. What a good friend, too.
Yeah, right.
So it's got to be careful. Really, my report's limited because we discussed in executive session the Triple T litigation and the affordable housing litigation, which West Milford and almost all of the towns in Passaic County are involved in now to obtain that compliance plan based on the Supreme Court's order that in order to have an affordable housing plan approved, it has to be done through the court. So that's presently pending in Passaic County Superior Court before Judge Brogan. And, so far we've, as a municipality, done everything we had to do. But we discussed that with the planner, Chuck McGordy, tonight, who's worked very closely on that as well. So those are really the most significant items right now. The other matter is we continue to litigate at the state tax court with Newark with respect to the appeals. And I would ask for an executive session going forward on that matter because now we're into 2016 and this may be the third or the trilogy to the Newark appeals where I'd like to discuss that in an upcoming executive session.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Antoinette?
Mayor, just have a couple of items. The county freeholders rejected the bid for the storage shed late last week, and Paul Ferraro did a redesign as requested by the county. So they expect to go out to bid for that and hopefully get some bidders, responsive bidders, and start construction sometime this year. And the storm hardening project is progressing. O&R has completed all the details of the easement agreement and it's been finalized, signed, and it's going to be filed with the county.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, and council, we have Resolution 2016-079, which is a resolution accepting resignations tendered, and that would be for the MUA.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Lou and Mike, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and would the council like to make any appointments to either the planning board or the MUA?
I'd like to make a nomination. I guess we'll start with the MUA for Russ Curving.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Move to close and confirm.
Second.
Okay, so I'm sorry, that was Lou and Tim for the nomination, and then Ada and Marilyn to close the nomination. And since there's no other individuals, can we just do an all in favor?
Sure.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed to that appointment? Okay, that makes it easier. Thank you. Any planning board appointments?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to, there's been a request in our packets, actually from the last meeting, where we have a alternate that wants to move up, and I would like to, certainly would like to nominate Steve Castronova to alternate 1 and nominate Mr. Rizzone to alternate 2.
Okay. Is there a second for those nominations?
I'll second it.
So that was Lou with a second from Tim. For both of them, Tim?
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, so motion to close and confirm.
So moved.
Second.
That would be Lou and Marilyn. So we have Steve Castronova, who's currently serving as alternate number 2. We'd be bumping
Correct.
him to alternate number 1, and then the alternate number 2 position would be held by Ed Rizzone.
Correct.
Okay. And since there are no other nominations, can I have an all in favor again?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you, council, and we are ready to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That would be Lou and Marilyn. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everybody in the audience.
Thank you, Mayor.